Welcome, everyone, to episode 116 of the Chill Challenge. Oh, sorry, I'm recording the wrong show. My apologies. It is episode 116, but it's Puppet Masters and Castle Freaks. Sorry about that, everyone. So thank you for tuning in to Puppet Masters and Castle Freaks, the internet's leading all things Charles Band podcast. I am one of your hosts, Jared Hornbeck, a hot chick in a sexy ghost hunting outfit. And I am coming to you, as always, from Brooklyn, New York. But, I am not the only person who has been brought into this casting call, although I think we've actually already been cast as some of the people who need to win this $1 million in this haunted asylum. No, who else is here with me?
Well, it's me, Steve Guntley, and we all know the classic showbiz phrase, Steve Guntley plus hard nipples equals ratings, right? Ratings, people! This is the podcast about hair bugs, gut ripping, and human puppets. That's because this is the podcast about Hell Asylum, an early 2000s horror flick from friend of the show, Danny Draven, that kind of dug up a memory hold reality TV show for me that I'd totally forgotten about and I'm excited to get into. And we have a very cool guest returning to the show to talk about it. Who's joining us here today?
Of course. I mean, we would be doing the world a disservice if we were going to cover a movie like Hell Asylum, and we were not going to bring someone back on the show like Jerry J. Sampson. A lot of you guys remember her from the episode on The Dead Want Women, but, if I figured for this, we need to get someone who is a screenwriter, a podcaster, a reality TV show expert, and for my own descriptor, our own Supergirl from Hell. So Jerry J. Sampson is back. Jerry, what's going on?
Hey guys, I'm so happy to be covering this incredible reality show. I spend at least half of my life watching reality, the other half watching horror. So this is like the perfect combination of both. And the addition of very hairy producers and super sexy girls really kind of put it up a notch for me. I would put this in the top 10 reality shows that I've watched in quite some time.
Oh, I would say it's easily up there. I think if Joe Rogan had hosted this, it would just only push it one level further, obviously. But, they did cast some hirsute men to be playing the producers of this one. Yeah. some shaggy boys.
Which, and appropriately morally gray.
Exactly.
As producers must be.
Yeah, exactly. I'm happy to see some representation. Not of the morally gray people. But never mind.
And not of real people, but
yes.
It's there.
Well, we're excited.
I'm happy that the hairy producers are getting work. That's
yes, exactly. It's a tough economy out there for the hairy. But yes, we're talking about Hell Asylum. Yeah, great title. Almost was not the title. This cycled through about 10 different titles from various different points. But the original title of this, we'll get into that in a second. But mostly I'm excited to talk about this because, weirdly, this is the second movie that we've covered that kind of adopts a reality show format. But unlike Unlucky Charms, which came out almost more than a full decade after this, I think this movie understands the language of reality TV and is playing around with that. It's not 100% like mockumentary style, but when they are cutting back and forth to the reality stuff, it looks like a reality show. Whereas Unlucky Charms, they didn't know where to place the camera. They didn't really understand the mechanics of
those shows. Those shows always had those hilarious insert shots, especially during the credit sequence where it's that just the person just standing on a bridge in front of the skyline, and it's the camera's tilted sideways and kind of zooming in and out real quick, and then their name is written in some kind of loopy font on the screen.
Yeah,
I miss those little touches.
Yeah,
it definitely feels like early 2000s reality. In certain ways, and then in other ways, it definitely feels like they'd never watched a reality show. But there was a little bit of both in there, and just enough to really kind of amp up the tension when we got into the asylum.
Yeah, these girls were definitely ready to find out what happens when people stop being polite.
Mm-hmm. There was one person there who definitely did not come to make friends. I know that. I know at least one character here did not.
Just ask her.
Just ask her. She's ready to tell you. Let's talk a little bit about this movie. Hell Asylum was released April 11th, 2002. It's directed by Danny Draven. It's written by Trent Haga, Killjoy himself. And it stars Deborah Meyer, Tanya Dempsey, Sonny Lombardo, Stacey Scowley, Olympia Fernandez, Timothy Muscatel, Joe Estevez, Jojo Draven, Trent Haga, and our buddy Brink Stevens showing up here as a shrouded figure. Gotta love it. Now, the original title of this movie, like I said before, was actually Prison of the Dead 2. Now, if you're scratching your head at that one, Prison of the Dead was a 2000 David Dakota movie that we have not covered yet. I think we will, though.
We will be. You'll be hearing our episode on the first Prison of the Dead probably in about a month and a half or 2 months.
Oh, okay, cool. It's coming up. And the reason we didn't structure this around it so that we would talk about that one first and then this one is because they are actually in no way related whatsoever. So,
no, Steve, I'm going to stop you. I was told by one of the characters that this asylum, and here's the quote, "This is a prison of the dead too."
It's really good. I like that they dropped that in there. It was so clunky and so silly. Like, I don't know if it would have like bumped against me at all if I didn't know that that was the title of this movie. I mean, I might just think, oh, that's kind of an awkwardly phrased line, but like, yeah, I'm curious if that would have bumped.
Yeah, it got real like Spider-Man 2, too many Spider-Man vibes to it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, Prison of the Dead 2, that was changed. I think some of the other titles they considered were Brides of the Dead, which also doesn't make sense. Hotel Hell. I mean, I guess you could say this is a hotel. I mean, do they refer to it frequently as an asylum?
I don't know, but I'll tell you what, there's a lot of criteria that they're coming really close to, and if they're not serving fritters in this movie, they don't get to call it that.
Exactly. Yeah. You got to love them meat pies. Yeah. That movie still freaks me out. Like, I know that movie's kind of like campy. There's something so grimy about Motel Hell that it just like it squicks me out. I don't know.
Well, there's a lot of, I mean, Rory Calhoun's in it, so there's a lot of standing and walking.
Yes, he is known for that. Yes.
But no, that
like a
Motel
bunch of
Hell,
Rory Calhouns.
I've realized as we've been doing the show, I hope somebody's out there who is a big enough a fan and cares enough to do this. But I would love for there to be like a wikia of our show because a lot of times Steve and I will reference a movie or quote it or make a joke about it without saying what movie we're talking about. So I would love for someone to have like a composium of like, here are movies referenced in the show and list it out.
Yes,
because I don't think we've had.
I need some of these references explained to me, and I'm making.
Yeah, I don't even.
So yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah,
but like, I don't think we've had a chance to talk about Motel Hell on this show yet, and so we're not going to go on much of a tangent about it. But I will say that, yeah, I think as someone who got into horror young, Motel Hell was one that I think I didn't catch the campiness initially either as a kid, and it was a little too off-putting for me. So it's like not. I would look at the cover in the video store and I'd kind of be like, "Nope, not ready for that one yet." Like
it was, yeah,
it was in my
like
prerequisites.
I think I only finally saw that movie in my early 30s, and I'm like, yeah, whoa, yeah, this one. Like, to be clear, I love it. I think it rules, but like, it also just squicks me out so bad. Like something about like cutting the vocal cords and then burying them up to their neck before running them over. Yeah, it's brutal. It's brutal. It's funny, but it's brutal. Anyway,
I don't think there was any kill quite that creative in.
Oh, am I misremembering it?
Hell Asylum.
Oh, okay.
No,
you're gonna get back on track.
I'm thinking like, no, I don't know. God, no, don't go and get back on track. But I'm thinking back to all the kills in Hell Asylum, and I'm thinking, I don't think anybody quite. I mean, there were a few that were. I mean, this movie actually surprised me in certain areas.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Like, what they were going for and kind of what they got. So. But no vocal cords.
No vocal cords. We did get guts getting ripped out of somebody's mouth, which I thought was quite a choice. Pretty cool.
And I never knew the guts were so skinny.
They're very skinny. They look suspiciously like bucatini. Yeah.
I was going to say, the human body is loaded with red tinsel, if you did not know.
You hear the whistling going through.
Now I know how those magicians have been doing it all this time. My ears are also full of quarters, apparently.
And this is no fault of Danny Draven's for what I'm about to say here, but if you're the person who's logging references, here's another one for your list. Every time I looked at our spreadsheet and saw that Hell Asylum was coming up, my brain pictured the cover art of Doom Asylum, the Patty Mullen movie.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And I was like, even like up to the moment where I pulled it up on the Full Moon app to watch it, I was expecting to see the other cover art because I feel like the Doom Asylum, which also, you know, a very cheap, very fun movie to watch. That kind of cover is iconic. This suffers a little bit in the art department in terms of its marketing from that sort of just like sepia tone bland early 2000s like nondescript cover, which I think, you know, like much like tying an onion to your belt, it was the style at the time.
It was the style at the time. Now, this is Danny's second movie ever. His first movie we talked about was Horror Vision from 2001. And then we've already talked about his next two movies as well, because he's about to go on this little run. He releases his first movie in 2001 and then his next three in 2002. So it goes Hell Asylum, Crips, and why am I blanking on the third one? Deathbed. Thank you. The one we had Danny on to talk about. So he really was working very fast with incredibly small budgets, incredibly short shooting times. I believe this one was done in about 8 days for around $35,000, $30,000 of which went to the Guts budget, which I can appreciate. I think that's well spent.
Steve, can I ask, we bring up the budget, especially during these Tempe era J.R. Bookwalter micro budget movies.
Yeah.
35,000, is that the lowest figure we've said out loud so far?
I think Deathbed might have been slightly less. Deathbed might have been 30.
Okay. Yeah,
but it's between those. These might be two of the cheapest.
Yeah, when I saw that number, I was like, man, I feel like we're ballparking around 50 usually, and for 35 for this one, I was like, wow, that's not a lot of money.
And I'm
not
actually
my guess.
Yeah,
my guess was like around 30, 35. Like no shade, but it definitely felt like, and just like having it be based around a reality show in itself, because reality is cheaper and you are kind of like playing with those things. And this definitely felt, very LA, grab people from your bar and stick them in a movie kind of a thing.
It's very much that. And I mean, I'm not just saying this to blow smoke for Danny, but like, I think that's kind of his superpower. And we've seen this in a few of these early movies where he gets way less of a budget than a lot of these other Full Moon movies do. And his movies are much more watchable than a lot of other films like that are made for like $100,000, something like that. Like he's really kind of good at economizing and like putting his resources in the right place. And I think that's what he does here. Now, yeah, I talked a little bit about Unlucky Charms and how like that kind of missed the point of reality TV. It kind of missed the visual language, and this one gets it much more right. And I think it's because this one is based on a more specific, tangible example than lingerie models in a house competing for ?
That was very unclear in Unlucky Charms.
This one is based on an MTV reality show from 2000 to 2002 called Fear, a show I had completely memory hold until just watching this. But that was a show I watched every episode of. And I think a lot of people did, because it was kind of like a little phenomenon for a little bit. I don't know why it only lasted those 2 seasons, but everybody I knew was watching Fear. Did you guys watch that show?
No, Never. I didn't have MTV back in the day. But I mean, was it something that was kind of based off of Fear Factor, like kind of a young MTV? Because I watched Fear Factor, but this definitely feels more MTV.
Fear Factor is definitely like an influence here, but Fear was specifically about like taking a group of people, strapping like these night vision cameras that point directly at their faces, sending them into some of the most haunted locations in the world, like in just complete darkness, and just watching how they react, and it's all like tricks and stuff, it's all I heard a clatter over there. I think I saw a door move. But it was effective and it was scary and it was a lot of fun.
No. Steve, are you sure that you're not just misremembering? Was this produced by Busta Rhymes and Tyra Banks? Are you just thinking of Halloween Resurrection?
No, that was my number one note. This is Halloween Resurrection.
That's what Halloween Resurrection is based off of. It's that's how popular this show was for this very, very brief little window in the early 2000s that it inspired at least 2 horror films from 2002 that we can think of. So
wow, I don't remember that show Fear, but I will say, like, I definitely, there's a huge MTV aesthetic, and you're talking about Danny Draven's ability to just get people to kind of be in these things. He told a funny anecdote about what it was like to kind of to be able to cast Joe Estevez in movies like this.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I wonder, how many trips to the Sizzler did Joe ask for to be in this movie and compensate, in lieu of
Man,
cash?
I wrote in my notes that and this sounds mean, I don't mean it this way, but Joe Estevez is an actor who really benefits from low res early 2000s digital camera, because if you squint just enough, it really looks and sounds like Martin Sheen is on screen, and you really get that. Yeah.
Before I even looked up anything, my notes were just, this guy is like a Hell Asylum's Martin Sheen, and I didn't realize
He's
he
giving
was an
Bartlett.
Estevez. But I was thinking, wow, he's really good at impersonation. But
yeah,
no, he's just a part of the family.
Joe Estevez pops up in a lot of these. He is part of the very proud tradition of less talented younger brothers, the Don Swayzes, the Joey Travoltas, the Frank Stallones, the Jim Hankses, all of these guys who kind of fill in the gigs that their brothers don't want to do, because
who was the one that was in Unlucky Charms? Was that Jerry O'Connell's brother?
It was Charlie O'Connell.
Charlie O'Connell,
who was also on Sliders. Yeah, took over for Jerry on Sliders.
Wow.
It's a proud tradition, and Joe Estevez is one of the greats in that genre. He's popped up a lot on our show.
Well, I remember in The Dead Want Women, it was Eric Roberts, and I figured that was probably half of their budget was just getting Eric Roberts to be that deviant. And then, in this one, you've got Estevez being his own kind of deviant, and it's money well spent, or Red Lobster well spent, I guess.
No, I'm sorry. It is Sizzler and only Sizzler. This was told to us by Danny Draven himself.
Oh shit! Okay. One of the many restaurants that will die when a generation disappears.
I've never been into one. I always just assumed it was bad. I don't know, or part of me when I was a kid, it just didn't register to me that I was a restaurant.
One of those, Steve, is your own life experience, and the other is just a statement that's probably accurate.
Yeah.
I've been in a Sizzler before in my life. I mean, there was in Sizzler there was something fascinating to me about something that sort of posed itself as a steakhouse or one particular kind of restaurant, but was also a buffet.
Oh,
a seafood buffet is always a little sus. A buffet in itself is danger, but seafood buffet, that was I grew up in Southern Oregon, and we had the old Sizzler after church, and it was always a risk.
I will this is not totally related. I just need to share my recent experience of going to a Medieval Times for the very first time in my life. Me and some friends drove up to Dallas and went to Medieval Times, and that food is unremarkable, and you eat it with your hands. But you know what? There's guys on horses fighting each other, and there's a falcon show, and there's all kinds of crazy stuff. It was pretty impressive.
I mean, the food is naturally better when it's served via wench.
Exactly. And I did not get a serving wench. I got a boisterous bard type, who was coming by with and the bit from Cable Guy is 100% accurate. It is there were no silverware in Medieval Times, so there was no silverware at Medieval Times. Would you like a refill on your Pepsi? That was very, very true.
I've only been once. Pepsi. I think we went for an 8th grade field trip or something like that, and I all I really remember from it is eating a giant turkey leg and not really having a napkin or anything nearby.
Oh, it was a good time though. It was a good time. I think there need to be more bizarre chain restaurants. I think maybe we can have a Hell Asylum themed chain restaurant where it's just spaghetti. It's just lots and lots of spaghetti because I like I said, they really sprung for some gore here. This movie is a little poorly lit. It's a little low res, and they're using the reality TV show language to kind of cover up some inconsistencies and help facilitate the editing and stuff like that. But the ideas behind that they're coming up with here are pretty gross. And these ghosts really like to rip your guts out specifically. And
zombies, I'd say.
Ghosts
don't always eat entrails. So that was a surprise.
Yeah. I mean, do we ever really learn who they are or what they want? There was some stuff about the owner.
Well, they were positing that it was, the many wives of Phineas.
Yeah.
That had, he had taken in and killed and never let go. But when you actually see these entities, they're definitely not like, because they were saying it was like Chinese wives that he kept bringing from another state, which was weird. I think it was like they mentioned it was another state, so I don't know what state just like hoards Chinese wives back in the day. But then we saw the ghost zombies, and I don't think they were those wives, so I think maybe they were random ghosts
Hard
in
to-
the
hard
Hell
to say.
Asylum. Hard to say.
Well, we know
Yeah.
that one of these ghosts is a friend of the show, Brink Stevens, showing up to just be a little menacing behind a cloak, and you got to love her for it. Another was Trent Haga, the writer of this movie, who, as we mentioned, did take over the role of Killjoy. I think he is the one true Killjoy at this point. Like, if they, I don't think they're making new ones anymore, but I think he's the only one doing it.
Yeah, after the first movie, I think he took over in Killjoy 2, and he's been Killjoy ever since. And there is one that just came out, I don't know, like 6 months ago or 8 months ago.
Oh, the
So I
Terrifier
think
one.
Yeah, they might still be. I wonder what they might be referencing there.
I think that's actually literally just recut footage from the other movies. I think they just recut it
you're
and
probably right. Actually,
highlighted like the gorier elements, and they were just kind of trying to cash in on the Terrifier thing.
And Trent Haga is also, he's one of the like maintenance guys who's talking into the camera while it's shorting out and complaining about the show itself, and then gets unceremoniously killed. That is Trent Haga.
I like him. He's fun. He showed up.
Devin Hamilton's in here too somewhere.
Yeah, but he showed up in Deadly Stingers and was funny in that movie too. Like I like Trent Haga. Yeah, I think he's fun.
Yeah, I think we said this in the Deadly Stingers one, but he's got real like what's that guy's name? Sean Whalen.
He's got some Sean Whalen energy. Yeah, I love Sean Whalen too. Yeah.
He's great.
He's my favorite person under the stairs. But we do have to highlight our 5 lovely leading ladies here, because it's a lot of old full moon favorites. We of course have the late great Deborah Mayer, who was always down to show up as like a mean girl in a full moon movie, and she's honestly still kind of one of the best at it, especially of this era. Like she shows up in Blood Dolls and why am I blanking on all names today?
But Ravenwolf Towers? Was she
Ravenwolf Towers.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry. I did not sleep. But yeah. So yeah, she's great. Tanya Dempsey is back, Danny Draven favorite. She was also the lead of Deathbed, and she's popped up in a couple of other things. We also have
Witch House 3, I think.
Witch House 3, yeah, absolutely. Olympia Fernandez showed up in Killjoy 2. And then Sonny Lombardo and Stacey Scowley are both new to me, but they were very fun. Sonny Lombardo is the goth girl named Rainbow. Honestly, good performance. Like, genuinely, I thought that was a really good performance from Sonny Lombardo. She has not continued acting. Looks like she retired like in 2006, but I thought she was very good.
And Stacey
Scowley. Yeah, absolutely. And Stacey Scowley is still acting. Kind of pops up in sitcoms all the time. She was in like Fresh Off the Boat and a bunch of other things like that. So yeah, she's still going at it. Yeah. Those other 3, sadly, have retired, or Deborah Mayer, in her case, passed away. Our host here is played by Timothy Muscatel, who not an actor I'm familiar with, but he's going to pop up in a few full moon movies that we're going to be talking about. So that's kind of our main crew here. Great names on these characters, especially the mean girl's name is Paige Turner.
Which I have to interject here. As silly as it sounds to hear that as someone's name, my association to that name is that there is a very well-known New York City drag queen named Paige Turner.
Yes,
whose shows I've been to multiple times. And so that was immediately where
she got her name from Hell Asylum.
I mean, I'm going to imagine that this is a very a movie that had a very large footprint, and I like to think that lots of people are referencing this movie all the time.
Probably reached the drag scene in New York.
Yeah.
If folks at home get a chance to look at some of the different cover arts that they came up for this movie, some of them are pretty hilarious. One is clearly just using footage from Resident Evil and putting it in front of like an old castle. And then there's another one, the main one, it's like kind of poorly photoshopped, and like it's a ghost with like the big like Baraka from Mortal Kombat 2 jaws. But the tagline is, "We dare you to make it to the bloody finale of this motion picture." And that's pretty dope. I love that. That's kind of old like Hammer horror kind of stuff. which is not really the vibe of this movie. I just appreciate that they did that. Yeah.
No, that's like a little separate, but I like not really knowing what to expect when I go into a movie.
Yeah.
Like, who knows
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
where we're going. Tagline tells
Exactly.
you one
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I genuinely had a good time with this movie. It's pretty short, even for a full moon movie. I think this was about an hour 10. It's about so it's a pretty quick watch. But yeah,
Well,
I think this is just another.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Steve. Finish your thought.
Oh yeah, no, I was just thinking this is just another really good highlight that Danny Draven is good at making like real movies with the budget that most movies would spend on the craft services. Like he's able to kind of tie together a narrative with probably very little. I think and we saw this with the Crips was the other one that was like, okay, this is like better than it needs to be. Like this is a much stronger film than it needed to be. So yeah, I think that's just something that he's really good at, especially at this time, like early in his career.
Totally. And I think, when we were talking before about how this movie was going to be called Prison of the Dead 2, and there's a Prison of the Dead original movie that we have not covered yet on the show.
Yeah.
I was going to kind of come on and say like, well, maybe that was maybe just like a scheduling snafu in the sense that we didn't really have the bigger picture sort of foresight to see the order that some of these would shake down, but they're unrelated movies. I do think we fucked up by not lumping this in with another Danny Draven movie that would come out 10 years later called Real Evil.
Oh yeah.
And so this movie, Real Evil, another Danny Draven full moon movie, very similarly is about like a bunch of people who are, strapped with like infrared night vision cameras and need to stay in some kind of haunted place overnight. But I think that one, if you look at when it came out, it's like its influences are clearly like The Descent, and
the cover looks like Wreck. Like
it looks like
Spanish
Wreck is
film.
a big Wreck is a big influence on that movie too. But I think looking at Hell Asylum in terms of 2002, I mean, you brought up this show Fear, which I was not aware of really until you started talking about it, but it sounds like it's obviously a direct, very large influence on this movie. And then we mentioned Halloween Resurrection, but I also think like if you look what had just come a few years earlier, you had in 99 both The Haunting and House on Haunted Hill, which essentially, this movie borrows a lot from those. And it borrows a lot from another movie that I remember seeing and being so amped about, because the idea that there could be these like nefarious, because reality show was the rage at the time.
Yeah.
And the fact that there could be these sort of nefarious reality shows was being scrutinized as like a plot device for a lot of movies. But the first one that I remember really seeing was a small movie that I was going to college in upstate New York at the time. And I went to this small theater, Upstate Films, like a little art house theater, to see a movie called Series 7, The Contenders, which was a movie I never hear anybody talk about.
Brooke Smith.
anymore.
Yeah, really great performance from Brooke Smith from Silence of the Lambs. Yeah.
Yeah, and that movie, I remember it was like, that was the whole conceit of the movie, was it was a reality show, but you had to kill the other people in the reality show. And it felt so novel at the time. Like I remember watching it in the theater and just being like, this is revolutionary.
Yeah.
Like I can't believe someone thought, to have this sort of commentary on something that's going on. And then within 6 to 9 months, like the reality show gone wrong was saturating the market.
Yeah. I mean, I do have to ask our resident reality TV show expert now, by the end of this movie, in a gloriously ironic twist, what is it called again? Chill
Challenge.
Chill Challenge has become a bona fide hit. Reality fans love to see bloodletting. It's the modern gladiatorial arena. But anyway, what would it take to make you, what do you like? Does this show appeal to your sensibilities? If you're a viewer in this world, are you tuning in to watch the Chill Challenge, or do you need something added to this?
At the time, in 2002, it would have probably been pretty interesting, especially, I mean, the target audiences is like boys in 18 to, 25 or something.
What are you talking about? They cast only attractive women.
Yeah. Yeah, so like, and this is before reality TV actually hit, like reality TV, granted, like Real World, all that kind of stuff has been around for so long, but reality TV really only became like huge moneymaker once the writer's strike hit, in 2007, I think. And
Mhm.
that was just out of necessity. And so this is still like very experimental, and reality shows were very experimental. And it's like there is something morbidly, I mean, to this day, it is a morbid thing to watch people on reality television, because that the producers are pulling the strings, but then at the same time, you've got people that are acting just how they are, and it's like an experiment that you're just observing. And this kind of thing where they're kind of pulling the strings, and it's basically like Fear Factor, because they have the bugs, and
Mhm.
at the very beginning they're asking them like, what's your greatest fear, and they're just literally telling them what they're going to do to them later.
Right.
And but it is interesting because there is something like fascinating about watching people be afraid, and there is something fascinating about legends. So it really does have all the makings of a hit. Now,
Yeah.
the fact that this, old Estevez brother was excited after seeing the footage of everybody like getting killed, that definitely, that shows a dark side. It might not be a literal dark side, but there's a little satire in this, and
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's
little
making it's
commentary.
comment. Yeah, there's some commentary. It's commenting like on the fact that, the producers are mindful of, what kind of like that they won't put a camera in the bathroom because it's network television. Nobody gets
Mhm,
naked in this because it's network television, but they
mhm.
don't mind, seeing people being mauled and impaled and strewn apart on national television.
Yeah. Which is very like, that is very American. We
Mhm.
It
do
sure is.
tend to, as like a nation, shy away from any kind of like not like there was any sexuality in this that actually made sense, but
No.
we do tend to really latch onto that violence and everything, and then sort of push away what we consider to be controversial, which is usually like sex and stuff. But
Yeah.
they do get down to their skivvies, right? Like you do have five hot chicks, and even though it's a little milk toast, it's still like five hot chicks, and they're
Yeah.
afraid, and that's hot. you
Count them. 5. Yeah.
Yeah. And they might win a million, or they might split a million five ways.
Yeah. There you go.
I
Still a
love that
pretty
they
good
weren't told
deal.
about any of this. They didn't sign a
Yeah.
contract.
Yeah. It-
Deborah, we no longer want to hit that. Get off of MILF Island.
yes. All right. So I think we're all in agreement. Hell Asylum is exactly as good as Network. So we all agree it's both perfect satires of the media in every way.
Oh yeah,
Really
you
cool
didn't
stuff.
know that Trent Haga is actually just an anagram for Patty Chayefsky?
I thought that was strange. Yeah, I'm like, this guy has too many vowels. It must be a Chayefsky. You've done it again, Patty. You really you pulled another fast one. Yeah, I didn't really have too much else on this, other than to note that the post-sex scene lighting in the hallway was not doing anybody any favors. Man,
I
the angles they
mean,
chose,
fluorescent
the
lights in
fluorescent
general.
lighting. I'm like, man, these are. I would be a little miffed if this film was released. I'm like, oh boy, yeah, they used blemish vision, I think, for everybody. They just really highlighted it. So I'm like,
No
oh man,
makeup
sorry
on that
guys.
set.
Yeah,
No
People
yeah.
makeup for the men on that
generally
set.
people generally like the way they look under fluorescent lights, right?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
no, that's
absolutely,
Yeah.
hot. Yeah,
absolutely.
for sure.
Yeah. We
I
all
do
like
have to
looking
say,
sallow.
yeah, exactly. I do have to say that, like, I was thinking about the camera, and it's a thing because I watch so many on my podcast. We just covered Gunjaim Haunted Asylum, which is also kind of like a found footage, TV show like
Mhm.
this. It was actually like shockingly close, only little differences. Um, and I was thinking about like cameras and where like Draven was really doing something. With just kind of how he was shooting it, but I just wished that they had like just stuck it to cameras on the chest, put your cameras on, and that's the footage that we see. And because I kind of step in and out of which this is like so picky for what we're watching. I was
No,
like,
no.
you really could have just like stuck the cameras up on the wall, and that's our point of view all the time, and I feel like it would have really captured that fear just a little bit more. So,
Yeah,
you know,
I was
small observation.
I was thinking of the movie Series 7 as well when I was watching this, because that's a movie that fully commits to the bit, right? The entire movie looks and sounds like a show, including the Will Arnett narration throughout the entire thing. But I was wishing that this movie did something like that as well, where it's just like, I want it to be just the reality show. Like when the moments that we're seeing the girls, it's when it's cutting away to the confessional. And then we get to a point where it's like, oh shit, things are real now. The cameraman is a character and he's trying to, you know, all that. And it is crazy to me that in the year of our Lord 2025, I find myself suddenly advocating for more found footage horror, which just shows how far we've kind of come as a society. We've lapsed the point where it was like tiresome, and now I'm just like, yeah, you know what would have fixed this? Found footage.
Well, because I think the perspective is a little unclear. Like there's times when it cuts away, and when it cuts to footage is in black and white, and I'm like, is that how it's airing? Like, is it airing in black and white?
Exactly,
and then what exactly is the footage, or what we're seeing, what the world is seeing? Like there's no establishing that everything taking place is being recorded and is going to be used. Because there's cameras placed everywhere and things are going to be recorded, but what actually then is being edited and making the final cut? It was sort of the same problem we ran into with Unlucky Charms, where it was kind of unclear: are we seeing behind the scenes stuff, or what we're watching what's going to then be airing as the show? And there was no real distinction to which one of those it was.
It might seem like a silly thing to talk about when we're talking about like these movies, but I do think that, like, you know, when you are kind of playing with cameras and like exploring how to make your movie on such a low budget, it comes up, and it, you know, I want to give them the same benefit of the doubt that I have the same questions on, like, you know, $1 million movies and if you're going to use these cameras, like if you're going to have a camera guy as they're coming into the asylum in the beginning, and then he just goes away, then who through whose point of view are we watching? So, you know, those kinds of things might seem a little silly, but you got to kind of like hold people to the fire in the same way that you do, because he definitely explored camera angles and point of view, and it's just, you know.
Absolutely. And I think it does stand up in that way. I think, you know, you can look at this as a real film, you know, and I think it's doing it a service that we treat it like that, and kind of like that hold it to the same standards.
And he shoots it too, which I think is kind of a staple of Danny Draven stuff at that time, is that he's, you know, directing and DPing his own films at that point too, which, I mean, potentially could just be a money saving thing. Like, honestly, like, you don't have to outsource that job to someone else. But I found that, like, maybe it's coincidental or a product of the fact that he shoots them too. But of the Danny Draven stuff we talked about, when we compare it to some of the other movies being made at that time by Full Moon, he seems to have a little more enthusiasm and a little more drive to sort of, like you said, Steve, make something that's competent given the circumstances. And I feel like he's generally pretty successful with it. Like, I think, you can look at this, because I was watching this and it's kind of become the mantra that we should get on a t-shirt at this point, which is we just kind of find ourselves saying, meet these movies where they are.
And
exactly. It's like, for this one, I found myself watching it, and, you know, not only is it shot on video and, you know, very pixelated and very low res, but it also was in like a 4:3 aspect ratio in like a small box in the center of my TV while I was watching it. And I was trying to imagine, you know, how these scenes are blocked and how these scenes are framed if this were a larger budget movie in a larger presentation. So I found myself at certain scenes trying to imagine, like, okay, if this was shot on film and this looked like a regular movie from, let's say, 15, 20 years earlier, and it was in 16:9, you know, what would this look like? And so I kind of played with that a little bit to it. And I think when you do it that way, you can see that there's this seed, well, not even really a seed, that's kind of being unfair, as I say, of craft that's in there. It's just, again, you're trying to churn out a product where you don't have the luxury of going back and having another draft of the script. You don't have the luxury of, get multiple uses at some of these effects or multiple takes. It's kind of, and you probably only really have Joe Estevez for one or two of those 8 days. And so, it's in that sense, you want to look at, all things considered, is there some artistry behind what's being made? And I think with the Danny Draven stuff we've watched so far, we've found that, like, he definitely has a more singular filmmaking voice than some of the other micro budget stuff that we've watched. And I'd say, like, you could extend that to friend of the show J.R. Bookwalter, who is one of the executive producers on this too, just as being a person kind of finding a way to tell as coherent a story as possible and show a little bit of talent within this incredibly cheap, incredibly rushed product.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have too much more to say on the movie. Do we have any final thoughts on Hell Asylum before we check ourselves out?
Well, there's one thing that I do want to bring up that I want to compliment the movie on, and I don't know if you'll agree with me on this statement, but I do think that the movie is appropriately scored. Like, I think the music sounds like it. This is going to sound like it's a sort of a backhanded compliment, but it sounded like stock music in a way that helped this sort of like reality show feeling of the whole thing.
Yeah.
But, in looking up the music a little bit, when we had Danny Draven on, and maybe it was because of time constraints or the types of questions we asked, but he didn't get a chance to bring up his wife, JoJo Draven, who has a bit part in this movie, but is also the composer of the original score. And she, I think, does a pretty good job. And I was reading a little bit about her, and I did not know this, but it's pretty cool. Presumably before her and Danny Draven were married, she was one of the founding guitar players of the all-female Iron Maiden tribute band, the Iron Maidens.
Wow, that's cool. I didn't know.
Yeah, I read that and I was like, that's fun. Like, I've watched, I mean, I feel like their lineup has changed over the years, but like, I'm a huge Maiden fan, and I have definitely watched performances of the Iron Maidens playing some shows, and I'm like, that's awesome. So she's one of the founders of that. And, I certainly have nothing bad to say about someone who outsources music jobs to a relative and or spouse, as someone whose own brother composed our show theme song.
Yeah, there you go. Yep.
Bring your people in. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
I did enjoy the score. I do have to, I hesitate to shout it out in case anybody involved in this movie was also involved in the band, but the song that they played during the end credits is let's say lyrically dense. Let's say it is maybe they're trying to fit a few too many lyrics in for the rhythm that they chose.
Yeah, I had fun with that because the ending of the movie is sort of like, very abrupt, where like instead of the director turning to John Travolta and saying, "Now that's a scream." We've got instead, Joe Estevez as the producer saying, "We've got a hit," and then it cuts, because it's 2002, to the most new metal song you've ever heard.
I mean, it's clear that they're like just reading from the Necronomicon or something, or just doing some kind of summoning bit, but like it's mixed so weirdly, and like the I don't know. There's just something about the way that song comes out. It's so funny to me.
Well, not entirely unlike that is the opening narration, which I laughed so hard because of the juxtaposition of, it starts off a very like, since the beginning of time, there have been people and there have been cat people. And then it like, they're still talking, and then it's almost mid-sentence. He goes, "But now we've got 5 sexy chicks." And and I was so like, funny. I'm like, that's intentional, and that's very funny.
Yeah, that was good. There's some really good stuff like that in this.
A bit of a side tangent, but one of the many miraculous things about the movie Sinners, which is out in theaters right now, is that
the hype is real.
It manages to be the first cool movie in maybe ever that opens with a legend's tale of a blah 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 blah. Like it's the first
Gotta
time
bring
that's
it back.
ever been cool ever. And so this movie's kind of trying to do that, but it's also riffing on it a little bit. But yeah, like that's the only movie I can think of that actually pulls that off.
When it's self-aware, you know, you really kind of breathe a little sigh of relief, like especially at the beginning of the movie. So you're like, okay, well, this is not entirely. They're not taking themselves like serious, and sometimes these types of movies do. It's like, don't laugh at me, I'm serious. And so, yeah, I think that's a good way to start it off. And I also want to shout out, just like on a writing level, I really loved Rainbow's kind of arc of and just how
Rainbow's arc.
Rainbow's arc, and just how like big of bastards these ghosts end up being, because you know her fear, she's basically like right from the beginning, I'm not afraid of death, I'm afraid of like slow, painful torture. And that's actually me too. Like that's kind of how I am. It's like it's more of the bodily harm, and these, just the fact that she's like begging these ghosts to kill her, and they're like, oh, fuck you, you know, because when she fell down those 5 stairs and both of her legs got broken so horribly, she wanted to immediately die, and they just told her, fuck you, no. And I think like I respect that on a writing level. You know?
But when she got to the bottom of those stairs, 2 sledgehammers came from both sides and hobbled her.
Oh god.
Those stairs
that
cracked
happens.
me up when they actually showed the stairs that she fell down, and both of her, oh man, that was great. That was good.
She also has what I found to be a pretty funny line, but was also very true, where they're like, oh, what do you mean? You said your parents were hippies. You only need love to survive. And she's like, no, they were hippies, which means they became yuppies.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. Yeah.
100% accurate.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. That was good. There's some good stuff in HELL ASYLUM.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. I had a good time with it. I thought it used the format well. I thought the cast was a lot of fun, and it's, you know, a classic full moon doesn't overstay its welcome kind of movie. Yeah. So, well, thank you so much.
Yes, 70. No, it's not even. I almost said 77 minutes. This thing was 67 minutes.
Yeah.
I appreciated it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, Jerry, thank you so much for being back on. We always love talking to you.
This is a good one.
Yeah, this is a really great one. I do need to check in real quick. You're out on the West Coast. Do the dead still need women out there? Is that still a problem?
They always need. You know, they pick them, they kill them, they need them. I don't know. Yeah, West Coast. That's how we roll.
Look, stay strong, okay? We're all pulling for you to protect yourself from Eric Roberts.
Well, I was going to say what I'm really wondering is that since we recorded the episode on The Dead Want Women, which was probably like 9 months ago, how many more movies has Eric Roberts been in?
Oh, inestimable. I mean, we just can't even begin to calculate it. The man does not sleep. It's like he's got some kind of magical powder that keeps him awake. I don't know how he does it. Yeah. I'm not making accusations there. I don't know. I don't want to get in trouble with Eric Roberts. He's probably in my house right now. Yeah. Well, Jared, do you have anything you'd like to promote or anything you'd like to draw people's attention towards?
Yeah, definitely. Check out my podcast that I have with my co-host Jason Von Godai. It's called We Own the Dark, and it's a double feature podcast. He kind of lives in the past, and I live in the present as far as our horror tastes go. And so one or the other will choose a film, and the other watches and pairs it, and we just talk about these great movies. Pretty dark a lot of times, but our most recent episode is the Gonjayam Haunted Asylum, and he paired that with Evil Dead Trap. And it was a really fun, it was a really fun conversation. And so, yeah, definitely check out We Own the Dark podcast anywhere. And that's pretty much, and I'm on Instagram at The Sleeper Must Awaken. You can follow me there.
It simply must. It simply must.
Simply must.
Well, if you check out Jerry's podcast or her Instagram, Sleeper Must Awaken, you're going to find something that you enjoy there. I am certain of it. If you enjoy what we do every single week, then you can show us by going to Apple Podcasts or Spotify, leaving us a 5-star rating, maybe a brief review if you feel so inclined to do so. One of the things that we also enjoy is if you leave Spotify comments for the episodes, if that's the way that you listen to it. You can also leave YouTube comments if that's the way that you're consuming the video. I know it's just the thumbnail and the audio file right now, but you know what? That is how people are listening to the show, a good amount. So definitely comment. We will read them and respond to them there. If you want to keep up with us, Instagram is probably the best way to do it. You can follow us at puppetmasters_Castle Freaks. You can follow me at _Giallo_Jared or Steve at Minotaur Matador. It is a lot of work to record and edit and promote a podcast, and Steve has to do that double time. Steve, what is the other show that you spend a lot of time perfecting and getting out there into the world?
Well, that show is called Cinema Arcade. It is cinema and arcade mashed together. That is what we do. We are watching movies and playing the video games based on those movies. I have no idea where we are in relation to our show currently, but some of the episodes we've recorded recently include the first 2 Predator movies, Jerry Seinfeld's B-movie, Muppet Treasure Island, The Karate Kid, Jackass. We've done a lot of interesting things. I think we've got an episode coming up on Babe. So we really run the gamut on that show.
Talk about a sextuple feature.
That is quite a feature. That's called the Whiplash Express. That's just going to be like whipping you around in a million different directions, but that's kind of what we're going for. So definitely check that out, and be sure to check us out again next week, because we've got some exciting sort of breaking news in the world of Full Moon. It's going to be a few weeks old by the time people hear this, but we are just hearing about it now as we are recording this. There is a new movie, by which I mean old, featuring the late, great Tony Todd. It is a Charles Band directed, Neil Marshall Stevens written, Mac Alberg shot film called Cutter's Club, starring Tony Todd from 2005. Long shelved, long thought lost, but now it is back, and we're able to see it on the Full Moon app, and we're going to check it out and see how it stacks up. Always great to see Tony Todd popping up one last time.
Yeah, this was one that was not on my radar, and when I saw someone post something about it the day that it dropped on the Full Moon app, and I went, what's this? I thought maybe it was like one of those just kind of a Full Moon app distribution, something that they pulled onto the streaming service. But I saw Tony Todd on it, so I said it can't be a brand new production that they churned out in the last few months.
No.
And I opened it up and took a look at what it was, and yeah, it was about a 20-year-old seemingly lost movie. And I looked at who made it, and I looked at who was in it, and I said, I messaged Steve and I said, why don't we cover this one quick, but while it's fresh on our minds. So yeah, very excited to have a 2025 Full Moon Features app release of a lost 2005 movie. So hopefully people will have just recently discovered that this is out there and seen it, so maybe there'll be a nice companion piece for people who are listening to the show. But definitely come on next week and listen to Steve and myself discuss Cutter's Club, because I'm pretty excited to get into it. I'm not going to lie. So thank you again to Jerry J. Sampson for taking the time to come and talk about another reality show themed movie with us. I'm pretty sure that it's not the last. And I know, what's the name of the woman, Jerry, from Vanderpump Rules, who's in the
Ariana Madix.
There it is.
Yeah, Ariana Madix. She's in another Full Moon Productions movie that came out about 6 months ago. So we'll have to.
I didn't realize that. Oh, I'll bet she's thrilled.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to continue, having you as our resident, all things reality TV show and anyone involved, resident expert to join us. So thank you again for coming on, and we'll see you guys next week for Cutter's Club. Stay tuned.